Good evening, everybody. President Trump in enemy territory. The president hosting a rally in the heaviest Democratic areas of the country, the South Bronx. President Trump gaining major support in New York as new polling shows Biden's lead plummeting there. We've also seen the former president greeted by chants like "We love Trump" in recent weeks as he's made surprise stops across New York City at various points, getting to his Soviet style trial in Manhattan. And turning now to news from Capitol Hill, 3 months ago, Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell called the bipartisan border security deal a huge success. Now, Senate Republicans have indicated they will block any attempt to advance that bill. Now, go figure. Joe Biden recently called on the Republicans to revive the bill. It was, to be sure, a poison pill. For example, the president would only be allowed to close the border once illegal crossings averaged over 4,000 a day. The fact that even rhino Republicans are drawing the line now or recanting their past support for the legislation says more about Biden's unpopularity than anything else as we approach Election Day. Meanwhile, senior House Democrat Congressman Jamie Raskin authored a 1993 paper arguing for non-citizen voting in U.S. election. That's brilliant. I mean, it's just perfect for the Marxist Dems. In that paper, 30 years ago, he claimed that the American founders would have approved of letting illegal aliens vote just as soon as they reached El Paso. Raskin's old paper surfaced just as House Democrats were preparing to vote against a Republican bill that would block a Washington, D.C. law that allows non-citizen voting in their local election. Well, Raskin, of course, is adamantly opposed to the effort to stop that voting. Unfortunately for Raskin and his crew, the House did pass the legislation today to repeal the District of Columbia's law that permits non-citizens to vote in their elections. 210 Republicans and 52 Democrats voting in favor of it. Only 143 Dems had the guts to vote against it. Whether it survives in the Democrat-led Senate is another question, and it's a question with, we're afraid, an obvious answer. Joining us tonight to weigh in on all of this is someone who doesn't shy from fights with the left, Congressman Chip Roy. Congressman Roy, it's great to have you with us. And I want to start with the vote today in the House, in which actually the House passed a bill to stop illegal aliens from voting in District of Columbia. It's extraordinary to me that would be necessary to do to prevent it.
Yeah, Lou, that's exactly right. Great to be on the show. I mean, look, everybody in America is wondering why would our nation's capital, why would we allow our nation's capital to allow illegal aliens to vote, and not just allow, encourage. They did a training exercise back in April where they were putting together the entire operation necessary to train and encourage illegal aliens to come forward and vote in local elections. They are prohibited by law from voting in federal elections. However, we are finding more and more that, in fact, illegal aliens are voting nationwide, jurisdictions like Washington, D.C., but also jurisdictions in other states like New York City, San Francisco, Oakland, and other places have been encouraging illegals to vote in local elections, but also not really separating and ensuring that they're not voting in federal elections. So today's vote was a powerful statement to ban it in the District of Columbia. By the way, we picked up about 50 Democrats, I think. I haven't looked at the final tally because we just voted, but there was a large block of Democrats that voted for it. That's a good sign. Now we get on to making sure we can do it federally. But, we got to see if Chuck Schumer will take this up. But with that many Democrats, maybe we can pressure him to do one thing sane.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm never encouraged when I hear the name Schumer in front of anything. I hope for the best and prepare for the worst on that outcome. To think that this is now coming true, the big conspiracy theory we were told was that there was a replacement theory. It turns out the replacement theory turned out to be exactly right. There was a big conspiracy theory about bringing in illegals by the millions over the course of the past 3 years. It turns out that was a correct statement. They're bringing them in to vote for Democrats. Can it be stopped in this election year?
Yeah, no question that this is the case. Now, remember, in the District of Columbia, we have the ability to control that, right? There's no state there that we have to respect their federalism rights. So we can do what we want and take that power back to D.C. So that's what this legislation would do. Now, we obviously have to have the Senate sign it or pass it, and the president sign it. But while we do that, we are also working on a bill that I authored called the SAVE Act. That bill went through the House Admin Committee today. We're unanimous support among Republicans. One Democrat voted against it. The others weren't there. Tells you how much they care. What our bill would do is require proof of citizenship, documentary proof of citizenship, to register to vote across the country. We require it. That's a giant step forward. We've never done that before. We have made it unlawful to be a non-citizen and vote in federal elections, but we've never made it not only possible, but mandatory that we require proof to register to vote. This bill would do that. I hope we will bring that forward and before the entire body. I'm a little more skeptical that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats will want to move that one. But again, it's hard to vote against this stuff. I applaud Mike Johnson for moving this stuff down to the floor. Hopefully we'll get the SAVE Act to the floor the week after the Memorial Day recess to try to save our elections.
Well, there's a lot to save here because there's a lot in jeopardy. The very republic is in jeopardy, as you well know, in this election. How important would you say this election is to get right? That is, to make sure that it's an election of integrity, that there is no cheating, no rigging, and that everyone gets their vote to count this time around.
It is so critically important. It's important to make sure that American citizens' votes are counted correctly. Obviously, we've had concerns about that with mail-in ballots and the fraud in elections, and we're very concerned about illegal aliens being able to vote. This election is so critically important. The House and the Senate, and obviously making sure that we send President Trump back to the White House, somebody who actually stood up to defend the rule of law and secure our nation's border, stood up for American sovereignty and security, stood alongside Israel, moved the embassy to Jerusalem, stood up and got the Abraham Accords passed, was a strong advocate for, economic growth and his policies, put good judges on the court. These guys, these progressive Democrats, they will do anything it takes to stop Donald Trump from getting back to the White House, including try to use illegal aliens to vote. That's why we should pass these laws, common sense laws. Lou, it is an 87% issue that only citizens vote. So we should shove it down the throats of Democrats. We should make them have to vote on it. I think we'll be surprised on the result. We may not pass it, but let's make them eat that heading into the election cycle. And if we get lucky, we'll pass it.
Well, let's hope we get lucky, and because it is the correct policy, and it, as I said earlier, it just seems insane that we have to, in any way, litigate this, legislate this issue. It's preposterous that we would permit illegal aliens to vote, particularly when they're being brought in by the estimates that I believe. We have seen about 5 million, just under 5 million illegal aliens enter this country just since Joe Biden took office. And that means we've got a lot of uphill work to do, and I'm glad to see that you're doing that. I want to turn also to, if I may, Congressman, the Biden cover-up. Now we learn that the CIA had a direct hand, not an indirect or subtle hand, in preventing interrogation and investigation of Kevin Morris, the president's hotshot Hollywood lawyer. This is getting really revealing now. We're watching everything, it seems, just blossom up here to prove, to demonstrate the abject corruption of the Democrat Party and the Biden regime. Your reaction?
Yeah, well, look, this is just par for the course of the Biden administration. We had the director of the ATF sitting before us, the Judiciary Committee today. I took him to task for their rules that basically make it unlawful for Americans simply to sell a weapon. They're trying to make it, to where it's criminal if you don't go get a license to just simply sell your grandpa's gun that you've got in your cabinet. And importantly, we held the Attorney General of the United States, as you know. We held him in contempt last week in the House Judiciary Committee as well as in the Oversight Committee because he's trying to claim executive privilege where there isn't any. The President of the United States, as you know, he was being interrogated by Special Counsel Hur and asking questions about Hunter Biden and all of the various ways in which the dollars have been flowing to the Biden family. And the president was determined by Special Counsel heard to basically not be mentally competent to really be able to pursue charges against him. It wasn't enough for, in our opinion, to have the transcripts. We thought that we need to see the actual or hear the actual audio transcripts. So they refused to give them to us because they know that the American people would get the joke and we would get the joke. And so they don't want us to see it. But they're then snubbing their nose at Congress. So we held the Attorney General in contempt. To your point, there are numerous examples like the one you just said, where the administration is ignoring the rule of law, ignoring Congress, doing whatever they want to do, ignoring the court with student loan bailouts. It's a lawless administration. The president of the United States needs to be removed from office, and President Trump needs to be sent back to the White House so we can get our country back next year.
Without question. And from your lips to God's ears. Congressman, we appreciate you being with us. Congressman Chip Roy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Lou. God bless.
And still ahead here, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics, Tom Bevan, joins us to talk about Joe Biden and his absolute freefall in the polls and much more. Meanwhile, Germany threatening to arrest Israel's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, after the International Criminal Court in The Hague charged him with war crimes, if you can believe that. That an obscene gesture of fealty by Germany to a corrupt globalist organization. And by the way, I would love to see the U.S. government start arresting German officials as soon as they set foot in this country. In another effort to buy votes, Joe Biden announcing he's bailing out 160,000 more student loan borrowers. To date, Biden has, with taxpayer money, of course, bailed out 4.75 million borrowers. In other news, Nikki Haley says she will be voting for Trump in the general election, despite trading barbs with Trump throughout the primary and the blood somewhat bad between the two. Haley said that, quote, "We cannot survive 4 more years of Joe Biden." That's been obvious, of course, to the rest of us for some time. Here she is.
As a voter, I put my priorities on a president who's going to have the backs of our allies and hold our enemies to account, who would secure the border, no more excuses, a president who would support capitalism and freedom, a president who understands we need less debt, not more debt. Trump has not been perfect on these policies. I've made that clear many, many times. But Biden has been a catastrophe. So I will be voting for Trump.
She had that record on 45 instead of proper 78, don't you think? Well, Haley's endorsement, does it make much of a difference? Well, we invited Tom Bevan, the co-founder, president of Real Clear Politics, to join us this evening to discuss that and a lot more. Tom joins us now. And Tom, thanks for being here. Let's start out with the spectacle of Donald Trump in the South Bronx. He's been spending a lot of time in Manhattan at the trial, but this is incredible that he's trying to turn New York City as well as the state. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we just got a Siena poll that came out last week. Siena College based in New York. They're experts at polling the state. This is a state that Biden won by 23 points in 2020. And they had Biden was leading Trump by 9. So while I'm not sure that means that New York is winnable for Trump, I think what it does show, though, is Biden's support in New York is way softer than it was 4 years ago. And so this is an opportunity for Donald Trump, just like he took in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago with his huge rally on the Jersey Shore, for him to, be right in the center of a very blue area and sort of flex his political muscles and have a show of strength. And by the way, this crowd is going to be it's going to be very diverse. I think it's going to be a lot of working class Hispanic voters and working class African American voters, and that's something that the Trump campaign is very much focused on, trying to improve his standing with those voters, and he's had some success. Some of these latest polls that we've seen, New York Times Siena Battleground poll from I think last week or week before, had Trump support at 20% among African American voters in those battleground states. Wall Street Journal poll had it at 30%. I mean, if he gets anywhere close to those numbers, it's going to be really tough for Democrats come November.
It's going to be tough, and we're seeing those numbers, as you suggest, already eroding dramatically for Biden and pumping up President Trump and his campaign. It seems to me that there is something different in the air right now, and it's palatable in New York City, in New York itself. New Yorkers are a different breed. I mean, we can go through the demographics and everything else, but the reality is New Yorkers are a tough bunch, and they're not going to take bull for very long unless it suits them. And right now, they're being shoveled a lot of stuff by the Marxist Dems that doesn't suit them. Whether it's inflation, whether it is a crime wave that's unparalleled, or the invasion of illegal aliens into New York City itself. This is really stacking up against Biden, isn't it?
Certainly. I mean, those are three issues that are probably his biggest problem points heading into this campaign. And look, Trump is a New Yorker. I mean, he knows exactly how to speak to this crowd, and I'm sure we'll get the most out of it. But to your point, the immigration, crime, inflation, those are three issues that are playing all over the country, and not just in cities, right, although they are acute in many major cities, but in suburbs as well. And those are the areas that Trump really struggled with in 2020, right? The suburbs of Atlanta and Philadelphia and Milwaukee and Phoenix. And so if he's able to really if those numbers have really hurt Biden in those areas, then that's obviously going to bode well for the Trump campaign. And we're seeing it in some of the polls. I mean, some of these battleground states, particularly the Sunbelt states, I mean, Trump's lead is now 4.5 to almost 5 points in our average, which means there's some polls that have him more than that and some polls that have him less than that. Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Nevada, he's at 4.5 or 5 points.
And to see where he is in those battleground states is really encouraging to the campaign. Obviously, it's also clear that the Biden knows he's in big trouble, and if he doesn't know, at least the people who advise him and lead him understand it, because now he suddenly wants to debate. I don't think so if he doesn't consider himself to be significantly behind. You're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, so it's one of those interesting things. I mean, I was watching some of the Democrats. Joe Scarborough was saying on MSNBC the other day that the Biden campaign they're either in denial about this or they know something that other people don't, because they seem to be very sanguine about their prospects and the fact that, yeah, they're behind now, but all this is going to, course correct in the next few months. And Biden's numbers with African Americans are going to come back into line. And all of these things they're going to be able to frame this election and frame Donald Trump in a way that is going to, put them in a good position. I don't know that I agree with that, given everything that we've seen thus far. And I do think the debate gambit on Biden's part, while it is very, very risky, in my opinion, is something that is an indicator that they think they have to demonstrate that Biden is up to the job. I mean, that's the other thing. You talk about the issues, and then you talk about sort of these intangibles. And the two are, his age and his mental acuity. Is he up to the job or not? Now, he gave a State of the Union, put that to rest for a little bit, and then he goes out on the stump and he says some, he kind of wanders around and he says some things that raising eyebrows. And now it's time for him to try and, reboot the idea that he's still up to the job. But there's no question that I think the Biden campaign, they know, I think, given where they're spending their time and money and energy, that his road to the White House reelection goes through Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. I mean, that's it. That's where he's closest at this point. Mm-hmm. I think they're not writing off completely some of these Sunbelt states, but they've gotten away from them to the point where, if he wins those three states and loses everything else, Biden could still win the presidency 270 to 268. Depending on what happens in Nebraska and Maine, for example, but that's a different show.
So I think that we're talking about cognitive impairment. I think that this is a cognitive test for the nation, because if this fellow can be brought back into the White House after all of the disasters that he has authored, as the titular head of this regime, and the Democrat Party taking responsibility for the two that they put up at the top of the ticket. I think about this. They put up Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, two of the least, I'll put it kindly, two of the least gifted politicians in memory. And there is great resentment of that, I sense, among the both the left and the right in the electorate. This is a cognitive test for the American voter. I mean, if they return this president to the White House, what in the world does it say about Americans?
Well, listen, I mean, Lou, that's like you're approaching this from your perspective. I mean, Democrats still think Biden's been doing a great job. He has strong support among Democrats. And so what it comes down to is, what do independents think? I mean, are independents swayed by any of the arguments that Democrats are going to make against President Trump, which is they'll use the issue of abortion. They're going to use the issue of threat to democracy. They're going to really try and paint this as if Trump gets in, he's never getting out, or, our democracy is over. And will that be enough to carry the day with independents versus the issues that we just talked about? Inflation, what people are paying at the grocery store and the gas pump, and for their mortgages and the like. Right now, the data suggests that's not going to work for Democrats, that inflation in the economy is number one issue by far. Immigration is number two, a close second in a lot of polls. In some polls, it's even first. And independents are not predisposed to liking or giving Biden approval on the way he's been handling those issues. So right now, I think they're definitely climbing an uphill battle. But as I said, they seem to think that the arguments that they're going to make against Trump will be sufficient to sway some of these voters that are basically non-ideological, and they tune in for after Labor Day and come out to vote only in presidential elections.
Yeah, I think it's really important what we're looking at in terms of the polling. You put the focus on independents, and that's where I always look first and foremost. We're looking at numbers rising to 61% who are absolutely rejecting everything this president is saying. They are furious at his border policies. They're furious at his economic policy. He doesn't have an economic policy. It's spend, spend, spend. That's more of a monetary policy gone mad, and fiscal policy gone mad. We're really looking at a lot of disgust amongst the electorate right now, and I don't know what it would take to reverse that. Do you?
Well, look, I mean, I don't know.
I know it's reversible, but what would it take?
Well, I mean, it is reversible to a certain degree, but I mean, again, we're almost to Memorial Day. I mean, some of the the voting's going to start in September, late September, October. I mean, we are now getting to the point where, typically in elections, voters are going to tune in, but a lot of voters make up their minds well before Election Day. I mean, they have pictures and perceptions in their mind about who these candidates are. And I think with these candidates in particular, because Donald Trump and Joe Biden are so well known to the electorate, and they are in many ways polarizing for both sides of the equation, that I think a lot of this stuff is already, the cake is already baked. So I don't know that inflation going down from where it is now by a point is going to make a significant difference for Biden. I don't know if he were to enact some executive actions on immigration to try and tighten up the border, that's somehow going to change people's opinions about where the border has been for the last 4 or 5 years. So I kind of agree with you, Lou. I don't know what he can do to change his side of the equation. I mean, the only thing, again, that the Biden campaigns thinks that they can do is to scare people, right, about Donald Trump and what he represents, what he's going to do, and hope that that's enough. But as far as what people think of Joe Biden, those perceptions are going to be really, really hard to change in the next couple of months.
Right. Well, I think most voters right now, they're more afraid of their government, certainly, than they are any particular candidate, save perhaps Joe Biden. Tom, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. And we'll, of course, check in with you along the way for data points on where it's headed on November 5th. Thanks for being with us. Tom Bevan, Real Clear Politics.
Thanks, Lou.
Federal agents raided the cigar shop of a Soros-backed prosecutor, Jody Owens, down in the state of Mississippi. There are few details right now, but we do know for certain that Owens oversaw a record number of murders in Jackson. By that, we mean he didn't prosecute them properly, investigate them properly, you name it. Meanwhile, CNN's viewership has, it's hit bottom again. I'm not sure that we can say this is the bottom, because every time we think it's the bottom for CNN, they go deeper and lower. Last week, CNN's primetime lineup attracted only 83,000 nightly viewers in the key 24 to 54 age demo. Not even CNN's constant coverage of the New York Trump trial is doing anything to help boost their numbers. As CNN plummets to new lows, spirits are higher than ever among Trump supporters in New York and around the country. Check this out. At Yankee Stadium, fans unfurled a never surrender Trump banner ahead of his Bronx rally this evening. And I have to tell you, that is a great, great picture. Never surrender in Yankee Stadium. Things are changing in New York. We'll find out by how much very, very soon. And speaking of good news, Mike Lindell, as you know, has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. After he invented the world's best pillow, Mike created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. My wife and I have been sleeping on those sheets for years now. They are tremendous. Your best night's sleep also just got a little better. For a limited time, you will get a queen size set for $59.98, king size just $10 more, the lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees continue to be canceled by those big box stores and attacked by the big left-wing media. They appreciate all of your great support during these times and want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. That's right. Free shipping on your entire order today. You not only get the best specials, but you get this special offer for free shipping. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs. That's very important. Promo code Dobbs. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98, king size $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, there it is, to get free shipping on your entire order today. And please join us each and every day for my podcast, The Great America Show. Turning now to a disturbing discovery, 2 vials of blood were delivered to the headquarters of the Republican National Committee in a package addressed to President Trump. RNC Chair Michael Whatley called it a biological attack. Capitol Police have opened an investigation into this disturbing incident. And can we expect more of this as the election nears and the left becomes more insane? Well, the answer is likely yes. Joining us now to discuss this is RNC and Trump campaign legal surrogate Mahek Cook. And Mahek, it's great to have you with us. We've got a lot to cover here. This is a moment in which everything seems to be breaking for President Trump. Everyone sees what's happening with the persecutions, whether it's be at the federal level or the state or local. We also are watching the president in New York City, in South Bronx, campaigning in the heart of deep blue New York. This all adds up to, along with great fundraising, to real momentum for President Trump, doesn't it?
Lou, thank you for having me. And it truly does show a huge momentum for President Trump. You're starting to see Biden voters leaving him in droves. When you have Blacks, Hispanics, and so many other demographics, including Asians, that are saying we're not better off than we were 4 years ago, there is a huge problem for Joe Biden, including Biden's continued support for Hamas. He has become a Hamas cheerleader, which has continued to push so many moderate and independent Americans away from that base. So as Joe Biden's losing the base and momentum, President Trump has stepped in again to say, I have solutions. I've done it before. I can do it again. I can get this country back on track. And you're seeing the streets of New York today. You have lawlessness in this courthouse, but President Trump has changed the course, changed the tune, and transformed the streets by showing progress and success can only be achieved through his administration.
It's interesting talking with Tom Bevan of Real Clear Politics, the co-founder of Real Clear Politics earlier, talking about where there's a lot of distance between now and November 5th. But the reality is we go back to 2016, 2017 through 2020. The president has got a record that's frankly, in my judgment, unassailable as a president. And if we ever needed the strength of leadership that he showed in his first term, it is certainly now. That has to be his record has to be a major source of strength and momentum for the president going forward.
Well, never in our history have we been able to sit here and compare two presidents, right? We had presidency under President Trump and now Joe Biden. We have record high inflation. It's hit record high and it continues to hit every single American today. Whether you're going and buying gas, groceries, I mean, you name it, we are struggling. Under President Trump, we had the strongest economy. We had higher employment. We had wage growth. And then the other big issue, Lou, I have to say it, every state is a border state. President Trump ensured that he was not only enforcing immigration laws, but he secured the border so that every American could go to bed at night knowing that we knew who was in our country. Look at the disaster that Joe Biden has created. He has refused to secure the border. So now we have over 11 million undocumented illegal immigrants that are running rampant.
You use the number 11 million, and I hear various numbers, but I have to tell you, the sources that I believe, the people who I think actually know what's going on with those numbers, are estimating somewhere near 5 million people a year, illegal aliens, coming into this country at the invitation of Joe Biden. Almost 15 million to this point in his term. And it's going to be a mess. And the latest polling shows 54% of all Americans want right now, faced with a choice of amnesty or deportation, they want deportation. And that's precisely what President Trump has proffered. And you know that he will keep that promise. We're seeing a great unease about the numbers of illegal aliens in this country right now, using up services and resources that rightfully belong to the lowest income citizens in our country, those who are working for a living and trying to get by as best they can in this hyperinflation economy. Your thoughts on that?
Well, you're right. These illegal immigrants are not only impacting the economy, our use of education, healthcare, but let's talk about the crime rates today. We had illegal immigrants beat up police officers in New York. Those illegal immigrants are now back on the street. I'm from Ohio, Butler County. An individual was killed at the hands of an illegal immigrant. Look at Lake and Riley. The list goes on. And when I look state by state, every single individual state is impacted by this. So you don't have to be a border state today. And this is why Americans, at least in the middle, went from we want some sort of amnesty, let's figure out common sense initiatives, to we have to deport them. This is the only way America is going to survive today. We don't know who these people are. And if you look at the numbers, hundreds have come in that are on our terror watch list. That is unacceptable. We are just 1 minute away from a disaster, and we are all on edge today, Lou.
Absolutely. And we're dealing with what looks to be the appearance. It's early. It's much too early to say that there is more than 2 or 3 incidents of bird flu, but it's not too early to say that we have a dengue fever outbreak in Miami. We have tuberculosis. We have any number of diseases that are being brought in. When you talk about terror, the terror comes in many forms, but certainly amongst those, as we learned in the pandemic, by way of viruses. And we have no idea where these people have been, what they're doing, what their health status is, but there are an extra 15 million of them in our country in the past 3 years. I want to ask you as we wrap up here, give us a sense of the difference in the Republican National Committee now and before under Ronna McDaniel.
Well, I think this is truly an exciting time because we've had a change of leadership at the RNC. And what you're constantly seeing is one of the biggest initiatives is to get out and vote early. It's something that Republicans have truly feared. We've always said we need to go vote election day, but I think it's so important to start focusing on legal ballot harvesting. And then the other thing is, I mean, numbers speak for itself. We have had record high fundraising under new leadership because President Trump continues to show that he can make America great again. And that's with the economy, immigration, and so many other key issues. But you are continuing to see individuals come into the Republican Party at record numbers, people that we never even thought of. Today, we are reaching more than ever before because there's a huge grassroots effort, there's infrastructure, and more importantly, there's leadership that is constantly creating a unified message.
Great. Good news for the country as well, not just the party. Thanks for being with us. Mehek, great talking with you. Come back soon. Mehek Cook with the RNC. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Coming up next, Congressman Andrew Clyde of Georgia joins us. We'll be talking about the political persecution of President Trump. We'll be talking about an election to win. But first, in Connecticut, law enforcement officials released an illegal alien convicted of killing 2 children in a drunk driving incident. Officials let the killer free despite Immigration and Customs Enforcement posting a detainer against him. Connecticut is a so-called sanctuary jurisdiction. That means illegal aliens are afforded protection from law enforcement. It's a sad irony that in the so-called Constitution state, the freedom of criminal illegal aliens is valued above that of the lives of children and the safety of the public. Over on the West Coast, Colombian nationals were arrested in Los Angeles. These men are suspected of being part of a, quote, transnational criminal operation. That reads Mexican drug cartels. The criminals enter the country under the guise of tourism, then they surveil and burglarize homes using high-tech equipment to disable alarm systems. Shocking stuff, but it's the new normal in the Biden America. And down in Texas, a classroom brawl broke out at Herschel Antwine Middle School in El Paso. In the video you're about to see, a middle school student hurls a teacher against the wall as he mauls a peer in front of the class. Watch this. Makes you want to be a teacher, right? Every single one of those kids with a problem, it appears. The school certainly has one. The community has more than one. Congressman Andrew Clyde, Republican of Georgia, stood in solidarity with President Trump outside the New York courthouse, where the president is being persecuted by the Marxist Dems in New York as obnoxious hecklers tried to drown him out. Clyde rightly denounced the judge as very one-sided. Clyde, of course, is correct. This has never been about justice, these persecution show trials of President Trump. It's about interfering with the 2024 election. And joining us tonight is Congressman Andrew Clyde. He is a terrific guy. He's a terrific American, and we're delighted to have him, and especially so because he spent some of his time up in the courtroom of Judge Juan Merchant. Not an easy place to be if you're an American. He was there to support President Donald Trump. And I can't wait, Congressman. First of all, welcome. It's great to have you with us. What was your sense of what was going on in that courtroom with Judge Merchant, the prosecutor, a Soros-backed prosecutor, Alvin Bragg?
Lou, great to be with you. Well, I'll tell you, I went up there to support the president, to encourage him And he ended up being quite an encouragement to me to see the positive attitude that he has literally because of everything he's dealt with in that courtroom over the last 6 weeks or so. Never seen such a one-sided judge, someone who consistently ruled for the prosecution and would not allow the defense either the witnesses or the evidence that they wanted to present that was legitimate evidence, and not just in my opinion, but Alan Dershowitz was actually there when I was there, and you know, he's an amazing law professor at Harvard and
Right.
and incredible
A legend.
experience man.
Yeah.
Pardon?
I say he's a legend in the law. I mean, he really is.
Oh, absolutely. He is a legend. He's a legend. And he was saying exactly the same thing, that that he was shocked at this judge's conduct. The judge is incredibly, you know, convicted, in my opinion, or he just doesn't really have the ability to not be partisan. And I really think he shouldn't be on the bench in this trial. I mean, he's got a conflict with his daughter, who is literally a Democrat operative, and she is raking in millions upon millions of dollars because of her position as the daughter of this judge in, you know, for Democrat candidates in their Democrat elections. So there's a huge conflict right there. So, you know, this judge is so incredibly anti-Trump that I don't, you know, I asked the president, how in the world do you handle this? And he said, well, you know, it's been going on a while. And honestly, the more that they come after me, the more the American people see through what they're doing, and my poll numbers just go up. And so that was the silver lining right there.
Yeah, it's amazing. I see so much evil when I see Merchant, and I think of Soros supporting Bragg, and the ignorance of bringing in the number 3 guy in the Justice Department to lead the prosecution for poor old Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, as if he couldn't handle it. And by the way, I don't know whether that judgment is correct or not, but right now I will tell you, I look at that courtroom, every picture I see, I keep looking for glimpses of sulfur rising up from the floor. This is evil incarnate. It's ignorance. It's beyond anything that should be happening in America. But I say the same thing of the January 6ers as well. How can we have people in jail for 40 months without a trial? How can we permit these kinds of persecutions? What in hell has this country come to that this is the norm under this fool of a puppet president?
Well, I'll tell you, Lou, you know, I saw in the courtroom, they're going after President Trump literally for a Class E echo or a felony, rather, or a misdemeanor. And in doing so, they're actually forgiving a Class C or Class Charlie felony from Michael Cohen. Because when I was in the courtroom, one of the things that came out was that a crime was actually discovered, a legitimate crime, but it had nothing to do with the president. He was the victim of that crime, not the perpetrator of it. It was Michael Cohen who actually admitted on the stand to stealing $30,000 from the Trump organization, making President Trump the victim in that courtroom, all right, and not someone who has committed any crime whatsoever. So that was the only crime that I ever saw in the courtroom. And for them to forgive that higher level crime and go after what a trumped up lower level crime just shows you how twisted the prosecution truly is. They will do anything to get President Trump and to prevent him from actually becoming the nominee and going against Biden in the November election, because Biden, I don't think, has the ability to beat him, and they all know that.
Was the courtroom overflowing? What was it, crowded?
There was not an empty seat in that courtroom. We even, there was some of us that we had to sit in the back initially before we could get a seat closer up to the front, closer to the president. But there wasn't an empty seat in that courtroom, and the press was all there. And, you know, most everybody in that courtroom was against President Trump, except for his legal team and those of us who came in support of him.
So, did you get any sense of the jury? How do they look to you? Are they paying attention? Have they already made up their minds? Are they shocked or in any way reacting to what was unfolding? I mean, what you're describing is a disgrace in that courtroom that day.
Well, I noticed that when the jury would walk out and walk in, none of them would ever look at President Trump. It's almost like they felt that if they looked at him, that they would have to pity him or something. But that kind of bothered me in that regard. But most of the jury looked pretty, deadpan in their faces. We had to stand up when the jury entered and when the jury left, and we had to stand up when the judge entered and the judge left. But I noticed that when the judge was in the courtroom and the jury came in, the judge didn't stand for the jury. So I don't know if that meant something that he didn't respect the jury or what. But President Trump stood for the jury and stood for the judge every time they entered or left. But what is truly happening here is a disgrace to our legal system. We want to believe that we have a good legal system and that people are judged by their peers and that justice is truly just. But I didn't see that in this courtroom whatsoever. This is absolutely a travesty of justice, in my opinion, of what's going on. And I'm sure President Trump will eventually prevail. It may not be in this exact courtroom. It may have to be on appeal. But that would be an example then of the process becomes, the penalty here. And I think that's exactly where the Biden administration and the New York Democrats are going. They want the process to be the penalty.
Yeah. It seems to me that we've lost two important institutions in this country under Joe Biden. Not all of it, am I saying, is his fault, but it's all coming together under his administration, and much of it is his fault. And one is the collapse of our public schools, which have always been the greatest institution as an equalizer in our society. If you worked hard, you studied, your talent would carry you, and you would succeed, you would achieve the American dream. And the other institution is our judiciary, our justice system. And right now we have wide open, in your face, bald and raw, abject corruption, whether it's the prosecutors taking George Soros money or Alex Soros money, whether it is judges that have decided to exercise some fealty to an ideology that is barbaric and demands the destruction of America. We are in a world of hurt in this country. And I want to give you the last word here today, Congressman. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your observances with us, and God bless you. You get the last word.
Well, thank you, Lou. I just want to encourage folks out there that I have never seen a fighter willing to take on the fight more than President Trump. And I think that's why the country loves him so much, because he is a fighter. He's willing to take it, and he's willing to bear it, but he's never going to give up. He's willing to persevere. And eventually, in the end, I believe we're going to win this. And, I encourage the president, if he or any of his staff see this interview, that we're with you, Mr. President, and we're on your side, and we will defend you to the hilt, because he's doing the right thing. The president is.
Well, we appreciate you being with us here this evening, and I'm sure the president is deeply appreciative of your support and that of all Americans who care about this country and its future for our children and grandchildren and future generations. Congressman, thanks for all you're doing for America. We appreciate it.
Thank you, and same to you, Lou.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless you.
And everyone at home, please think twice before you take any clams home from the beach in California. A mother there just got fined $88,000 after her kids took several clams home thinking they were seashells. It counted as fishing without a license, and that added up to $88,000 in California. That is not only a totalitarian state, it is a totalitarian communist bone-crushing state. What ignorance and what madness Anyway, thankfully, after being ordered to pay that full amount, the judge did reduce it down to, thank goodness, and thank you, Judge, $500. Meanwhile, Thornapple, Wisconsin decided to ditch electronic voting machines for paper ballots last year. Now, Biden's Department of Justice has come creeping around the town and placed the town of about 800 people under quote unquote federal review. The Department of Justice, you talk about totalitarian, they want to know how Thornapple is accommodating disabled voters. Well, why don't they find out if they're not accommodating first? What kind of goons are you in the Department of Justice? That's just a pretext for killing the new hand counting ballot system. But now Thornapple has to do this absurd dance to avoid the crosshairs of Biden's totalitarian DOJ, corrupt as it can be. The Marxist Dems don't care about democracy at all, and that's no surprise, is it? Speaking of democracy, the residents of Crook County, Oregon, want to secede from the rest of the state. They're fed up with their Marxist neighbors, and they want a divorce and want to join the state of Idaho. 13 states have approved the Greater Idaho measure to join Eastern Oregon with the state of Idaho. The measure passed with 53% voting in favor, and this is, in fact, totalitarians of the Department of Justice, what democracy really looks like. And before we go, Mike Lindell, as you know, has a passion to help us all get the best sleep of our lives. And after he invented the world's best pillow, he created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. My wife and I endorse them fully. Your best night's sleep just got better. For a limited time now, Mike has made it possible for you to get a queen-size set of those sheets for $59.98, king size just $10, the lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees continue to be canceled by those big box stores and attacked by the national left-wing media. Of course they would. And Mike appreciates all of your great support during these times and wants to thank you by giving you free shipment on your entire order today. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152. And please use promo code Dobbs, that's DOBBS. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98, king size $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, there it is, to get free shipping on your entire order today. And please join us each and every day for my podcast, The Great America Show. Thanks for joining us here this evening. See you tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. Author of The Presidential Takedown, Dr. Paul E. Alexander, joins us. Also joining us, Green Beret veteran Pete Chambers. Next up, Mike Lindell with a fantastic show for you. Thanks again. Good night. God bless you, and God bless America.
I'm excited to announce we're having a huge MyPillow spring sale, and here's a few examples. Buy one of our MyPillow 2.0s, you get another MyPillow 2.0 absolutely free. Made with cooling technology, the best pillow ever just got even better. And this just in, 9 brand new colors and styles of our Percale bed sheets. They're made with the finest long staple cotton, and now you can save 50% or more. That's as low as $24.98. And for the first time this year, I'm bringing you our My Slippers and Sandals for as low as $25 a pair. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get your MyPillow 2.0s. Buy one, get one free. Percale sheets as low as $24.98. My Slippers and Sandals as low as $25 a pair. And for a limited time, when you order $75 or more, your entire order ships absolutely free.